Why do 90% of visitors to Luthmore never return? This question has haunted the minds of many who have heard the chilling tales of this forsaken place. Luthmore, a village shrouded in mystery and fear, has a reputation that sends shivers down the spine of even the bravest souls. The stories of those who ventured into its depths and never came back are numerous, each more terrifying than the last. Let's unravel the eerie mystery behind Ethan's last journey. Ethan, a young and ambitious anthropology student, was drawn to the village by the allure of its dark folklore. He was determined to uncover the truth behind the whispers that seemed to emanate from the very soul of Luthmore. Little did he know his quest for knowledge would lead him down a path of no return. Ethan was a curious soul, an anthropology grad student obsessed with forgotten folklore. His fascination with ancient legends and myths had taken him to many remote places, but none as enigmatic as Luthmore. He spent countless hours in the library, poring over old manuscripts and journals, piecing together the fragmented history of the village. His professors admired his dedication, but they also warned him of the dangers that lay ahead. His research led him to Luthmore, a village buried deep in a forest. The village was almost inaccessible, hidden away from the world by a dense canopy of trees. It was as if nature itself was trying to keep it a secret. The few maps that mentioned Luthmore were old and faded, and the paths leading to it were overgrown and treacherous. But Ethan was undeterred. He believed that the village held the key to understanding a long-lost civilization, feared for its eerie silence and unsettling whispers. The stories he had read spoke of a village where time stood still, where the air was thick with an unnatural quiet. The whispers, they said, were the voices of the damned, souls trapped in a perpetual state of torment. Ethan was skeptical, but he couldn't ignore the consistency of the accounts. Every story, every legend pointed to the same conclusion. Luthmore was a place of great evil. Arriving at dusk, Ethan found a village frozen in time, crumbling houses, overgrown streets, and a haunting quiet. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the dilapidated buildings. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, and the only sound was the rustling of leaves in the wind. It was as if the village was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine, but he pushed the feeling aside. He had come too far to turn back now. The villagers spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously to the forest's edge. They were a superstitious lot, wary of outsiders and fearful of the unknown. They told Ethan that the forest was alive, that it had a mind of its own. They spoke of strange lights and ghostly apparitions, of voices that called out in the night. Ethan listened politely, but he couldn't help but feel a sense of disbelief. He was a man of science after all, and he needed evidence, not hearsay. They warned him to leave, to avoid the ancient curse that demanded silence and obedience. The curse, they said, was older than the village itself, a dark force that had claimed the lives of many who dared to defy it. They begged him to reconsider, to leave while he still could. But Ethan was stubborn. He believed that the curse was nothing more than a myth, a story created to keep people away from the village. He thanked the villagers for their concern, but assured them that he would be fine. To avoid the ancient curse that demanded silence and obedience. The forest, they said, was the heart of the curse, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead was thin. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling of unease as he looked at the dark, looming trees. But he was determined to find the truth no matter the cost. He set up camp in an abandoned house on the edge of the village, his mind racing with thoughts of what he might discover. Unfazed, Ethan delved into the mystery, dismissing the warnings as mere superstition. He spent his days exploring the village, taking notes and photographs, and his nights reading through his research. He found old diaries and letters written by villagers long gone that spoke of strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena. The more he read, the more he became convinced that there was something to the stories. But he needed proof, something tangible that he could present to the academic community. But every night he heard them, whispers from the trees, from the earth, growing louder, more insistent, tugging at his mind. At first he thought it was just his imagination, a trick of the wind. But the whispers were persistent, and they seemed to be calling his name. He tried to ignore them, to focus on his work, but they were always there, just at the edge of his consciousness. It was as if the village itself was trying to communicate with him, to tell him something important. One fateful night, armed with a flashlight and his notebook, Ethan ventured into the fog-drenched forest. He had decided that the only way to get to the bottom of the mystery was to confront it head-on. The forest was thick with fog, and the trees seemed to close in around him as he walked. The whispers grew louder, more urgent, and he felt a sense of dread settle over him. But he pressed on, determined to find the source of the voices. The whispers intensified, hundreds of voices calling his name. It was as if the entire forest was alive, a living entity that was aware of his presence. The voices were a cacophony of sound, overlapping and intertwining, creating a symphony of fear. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. He knew that he was close to something that could change everything he thought he knew about the world. His heart raced, but he pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. He followed the whispers deeper into the forest, his flashlight casting eerie shadows on the trees. The ground was uneven, and he stumbled several times, but he kept going. He felt a strange sense of purpose, as if he was being guided by an unseen force. The whispers seemed to be leading him somewhere, and he was determined to find out where. Suddenly, his flashlight died, plunging him into darkness. Panic set in as he fumbled with the flashlight, trying to get it to work, but it was no use. He was alone in the dark, with only the whispers to keep him company. He felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead, and his hands trembled. He knew that he should turn back, but something kept him rooted to the spot. He felt a presence, something watching him from the shadows. Figures emerged from the mist, pale, hollow-eyed, whispering. They were like nothing he had ever seen before, ghostly apparitions that seemed to float above the ground. Their eyes were empty, soulless, and their mouths moved in a silent chant. Ethan felt a wave of terror wash over him, but he couldn't look away. He was mesmerized by the sight, unable to move or speak. The figures surrounded him, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. Terror gripped Ethan as he stumbled backward. He tried to run, but his legs felt like lead. The figures closed in on him, their whispers filling his mind. He felt a sharp pain in his head, as if something was trying to break through his thoughts. He fell to the ground, clutching his head, and the world around him began to spin. He knew that he was losing control, that the whispers were taking over. The ground shifted, whispers crescendoed, and his vision blurred. He felt the earth move beneath him as if it was alive. The whispers reached a deafening pitch, and he felt a searing pain in his chest. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. His vision went dark, and he felt himself being pulled into the ground, into the very heart of the forest. The last thing he heard was the sound of his own name, whispered by 1,000 voices. The last thing he saw was a twisted figure stepping from the shadows. It was a grotesque, nightmarish creature, with eyes that glowed like embers. It reached out to him with long, skeletal fingers, and he felt a cold, clammy hand close around his throat. He tried to fight, but his strength was gone. The figure leaned in close, and he could feel its breath on his face. It whispered something in his ear, something that he couldn't understand, and then everything went black. Ethan's lifeless body was discovered at the forest's edge, his face frozen in terror, etched with a strange symbol. The villagers found him the next morning, lying on the ground with his eyes wide open. The symbol on his forehead was unlike anything they had ever seen, a mark of the curse that had claimed him. They knew that he had paid the ultimate price for his curiosity, and they mourned his loss in their own way. The villagers buried him quietly, but on still nights, a new voice joins the whispers. A young man trapped in the cursed village of Luthmore forever. They knew that his spirit would never find peace, that he would be forever bound to the village by the curse. And so, the legend of Luthmore grew, another tragic tale added to its dark history. The whispers continued, a constant reminder of the price of defying the unknown, and those who heard them knew that the village would never let them go.